I'm Anne Wilson, best-selling author of Wealth Chef, and I'm so excited and we're so honored to have you on our channel. Anne, thank you for making the time.
It's such a pleasure, Belinda, to be able to come into communities and groups where we can have clean money conversations, where we can talk through the shame, the BS, the hype of money and wealth and cash, and all of that is so great. So thank you for creating this space and having me on.
I'm really honored. So, like I've showed my viewers, I don't know if anyone can see it properly, but anyway, I'll cut that in and they'll see your book. I bought your book about 8 years ago and I literally devoured it in a weekend. I couldn't put it down. I love the fact that you were able to articulate very complicated subject matter in a very simple way. I love to bake, so it just made sense for me. And it's just been an amazing book. I've gone back to it at least 4 times that I can recall. And I have given this book to quite a few young ladies in my family, friends, daughters, because I find it such a good book for someone starting out and for someone who's already, obviously in the workplace for quite a few years, but especially for young ladies that are, just started their own jobs, first job, and they don't know where to start. And, the financial world is such a maze, and there's all this jargon, and it sometimes feels like it's really geared for male counterparts.
No, absolutely. And so thank you. And thank you for the shout out for the Wealth Chef book. Belinda, I created the Wealth Chef brand, the Wealth Chef programs, and the entire concept, because it was really about me thinking back to my 20-something self as I went into my 30s. I found myself deep in debt, confused and afraid around the money stuff. I thought I was doing the right thing, working hard, getting the good job, even saving. Then I married somebody who was as clueless about the money stuff, but, assumed that the male should know what was going on. No, he was more in debt, more stuff. We had no idea how to have empowered money conversations, what that even meant. Our entire education system teaches us how to work for money. And then the entire advertising, self-worth, world is how to get rid of it fast. But what to do with it in between, I was clueless. And, Belinda, I think you possibly, similar story. I now speak to thousands of people around the world, a very similar story. I felt that maybe I was just stupid. Maybe I was the one that was missing something, because I didn't think I was stupid, but maybe as a woman or blonde, maybe this is more complicated. But I couldn't understand why. When would I start feeling safe? When would I feel there was enough? When would I feel like I could actually do something with my money? Did I know, who should I trust? What am I meant to do with this thing? And so I ended up in a big, messy money drama. My marriage fell apart because of everything you couldn't do. We had no idea how to have these conversations. So I'd been saving hard, and my marriage and the money walked out the door. And it was only then I realized, surely there must be another way. This whole, you're not meant to talk about money, but you need it. You went to work hard for it, but not, too hard. Like, it's this minefield. And that's where I went, what if money was just the same as a friggin' tomato? We don't get all charged about tomatoes. We don't get all anxious about the meaning. And if I have too many tomatoes, does that make me a greedy person? Or if I don't have enough, does that make me less worthy? And so that was the concept, was what if money was just an input, an ingredient? How would we work with that there? And so hence that came the sort of food and the chef theme, and everything now has been around what I've subsequently learned. From that point, I went, hang on, maybe it's not because I'm stupid, maybe not, but we're not taught this. And then, what I share in the book was then really just focusing, going with that curiosity. Maybe it's not complicated. Maybe I just haven't been taught this deep inquiry. I was able to create my own financial freedom in just 8 years. But Belinda, what I'm also going to brag, because we're not meant to brag when it's about money, and because that's also, let's de-energize that. I've now been financially free for 18 years. So that also is about going, how do we stay free? It's one thing to bring money in our lives, but how do we keep it? How do we grow it? How do we, and what that means is for 18 years, I've had this freedom of choice, because that at the end of the day, when we choose to master our money stuff, that's what we're truly giving ourselves, is the gift of choice. I love the work I do. I love showing up and giving value, and I'll do that till I slide sideways in the grave, but I get to choose how I do it, with whom I do it, when I do it, and that for me is the gift that I want to give as many people and as many women as possible, to claim that choice.
That's amazing. It sounds like true freedom, having the freedom to be able to have your money working for you and you being able to do the things you want to do from day to day. I wanted to go into your book, and I love your dedication. So your dedication right in the front, dedicating the book to your mom and dad. That's quite amazing. I love the way you thank your mom for teaching you how to love, and then your dad, teaching you that it was okay for you to make money and for you to be driven and be successful. That's such a beautiful dedication. And then I see you support the eradication of poverty through women's economic empowerment. And that's so important, because obviously, I don't know if you still live in South Africa.
I am connecting now from my beautiful home in the Kruger National Park. I have a home in the game reserve, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's awesome. So then, I don't know if you know the latest statistic that 42% of families in South Africa are headed up by a female, a mother. And unfortunately, she doesn't get, or she gets very little support from the father of the children. And what they found, Sanlam did a very big study where they found that South African women are better than their male counterparts at saving by 68%. So that's quite a bit. However, they don't invest. So less than 5% of women in South Africa invest. And that's all because they are quite risk averse in that study. So part of my channel is bringing on people like yourself, Anne, who are not, you're not afraid to invest, and you've got a specific method and recipe. And I'm imploring people to, one, read your book, but number two, attend your classes. I attended your class, your kickoff class, and I absolutely loved it, because after reading the book, it gave me very practical examples of what I could do. And you gave a lot of step-by-step knowledge on what's the next step. What do we need to do? How to do that? How to debunk all of the complicated, very financial jargon that there was. Your book doesn't have that, but obviously if someone wants to go into Easy Equities, they go onto an app and there's all this jargon, and at least if they've read your book, gone onto your classes, they now understand it.
Yeah. Belinda, you've spoken about, you've brought in a number of very, very key aspects here. So, absolutely, around the world, there are more and more single mother or single family-led households, women, and the reality is, there's something, 92% of women at some point in their life will have to take responsibility for their own financial well-being. Now, they might find themselves suddenly single for whatever reason, or never marrying. And so breaking through this, one of the biggest barriers that women need rescuing. There needs to be somebody else coming in to manage this money stuff. That somehow it's either messy or complicated or scary. I think is one of the most important barriers that we as women need to embrace. Because you've raised such an interesting thing. Women are fantastic, actually, with managing money.
Yes.
Getting more out of it. I call it squeezing the juice. Those households, how to get more, the saving, the allocating. Because women are able to actually think in those more lateral, more compartmentalized ways. But you've hit such a key thing about investing. And here's the thing, saving and investing are two different things. And investing is not complicated. It's not difficult. But again, we'll use the word like risk averse. But one of the things that I'm actually passionate about is saying, if you're truly risk averse, if you truly want to go, hang on, how do I make sure I'm okay, my family's okay, my kids okay? we will understand and get educated that not investing, not getting our money working, and not understanding what that is the riskiest thing we can ever do. Because Belinda, this, I'm going to add another terrifying statistic in here. 2 out of 3 women, and that's not just in Africa, that's actually globally, will have to rely on somebody else just to survive at some point in their life. 2 out of 3. And this is not, sub-poverty level or social. This is across every socio-economic level. And I think this is where I am just so passionate about what I do and so driven in this. Because this story around investing is scary or it's messy or greedy or we have to look after everybody else. We could go into a lot of the barriers of why women tend not to do this. It is so important we break this because we are missing. Just look at our world, and I truly believe one of the biggest challenges we have is because women are not financially empowered. They can't bring all of themselves to the world. And we need, there's a lovely saying that says if you're not financially empowered, you will be overpowered. And so this is a huge part of, like you, our mission of how do we demystify, so that there are just step-by-step process, just like a recipe we can learn. And I think, Belinda, thank you so much for shouting out in the book, because one of the important things for me around the book and what I teach is the practical how-tos, how to do this. But it has to also be with the inner game of we're also going, well, what is actually going on? Why am I afraid? What are the inner beliefs? Because our behavioral element contributes to about 80% of our success. Because at some level, we pretty much know what we need to do to have a healthy, relationship with money. You need to spend, less than comes in. We need to put some aside, blah, blah, blah. It's a bit like eating, eat less than you burn in calories and then you hope, you'll lose some weight. But the challenge comes in the societal pressure, the pressure of everyday life. How do we create systems, processes, what I call frameworks for freedom, where we can help ourselves just get clearer on that? Because we're busy, lives are full, there's pressure and these demands on money. And so we can go deeper into, but I really discovered through my own journey and now having helped thousands of people that there's just 5 core, what I call core recipes, but areas that we realize, money's not just about how do I earn more and then I'll be okay. There are these components with it. And when we can see, it's an ecosystem. And there's these different aspects that make up our financial well-being. And we can then make it a bit simpler. We can go, this is like, the starter or the main course or the diet. You don't have to do it all at once. We then bring in this system of how we engage with money, which is so key. I mean, there's so much I could talk about here because I want to give you a chance to ask a question. But I think one of the big problems we can have, and which we all need to overcome, is believing that money is a problem to be solved. So if I can just win the lottery, then everything will be okay.
And that makes sense, yes.
Yeah. If I can just win the lottery, if I can just get that job, if I can marry somebody who manages the money stuff, if I could just, because there's a little part of us that goes, that'll solve this thing called money problems. And then thank God I can move along and never have to worry about it again. But it isn't. It's the same kind of thinking as if I can just find that diet pill that'll sort it out. Or maybe I can go to the gym once and do one, crunchy. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
That
when
would,
we can go, and that's why, again, I bring in the relationship with food. We need to eat every day. We need to breathe every day. Yeah. And money is going to be part of our lives every day. It weaves through every aspect of our lives. So when we can go, money is not a problem to be solved. How can I instead integrate it into my life? And I can be great with what do I do with it in these different ways. Now we're no longer looking for that thing to rescue us or sort this problem out. Now it's a completely different thing. Oh, it's something to be involved with every day, and it will be with us every day until. So we might as well,
Yes.
if can we make it as easy as we make it breathing, and
Yeah.
we need to cook every day. So how do we do that there? Well, we need to eat. So there's different ways of eating.
Yeah. I think that's why, Anne, your book is really key here. And through my channel, I'm imploring people to get your book. And to go onto your website. We're going to have just on the bottom your website and where they can get, have contact with you, where they can go and attend your classes. I think it's fundamental for ladies because recently we went out to Melrose Arch, not too far from my home, and we interviewed random ladies, and out of the ladies that we interviewed, only one was investing, and that lady had a broker invest for her. So she didn't do any direct brokering or direct investing. She used a broker, and the other 9 ladies that we interviewed, none of them were investing. It was very, very sad. So it really, it was in line with what the statistics are telling us, that most women do not invest because their reasons were, it's complicated, I'm not really good at it, oh, I save already. And a lot of women can also confuse saving with investing. So those kind of concepts, exactly as you say, are so true at the moment, and we need to help the next generation, especially young ladies coming up, them becoming used to investing, seeing the fruits of investing and the results of investing, because that's really where the key is. And then now we live in the most amazing time, and I don't know if you agree, where we've got all kinds of alternative investments. I invest in solar panels. Fed Group have got a solar panel impact farming type of asset class. So you can buy a solar panel for 7,500 Rand. It's a 20-year investment, and you get nothing less than 10% per annum a yield, and you get your yield every month. So there's so much more different alternative investments that are out there at smaller asset brackets that everybody can participate in, because I can just imagine you've been financially free for 18 years. 18 years ago or 20 years ago, there wasn't so many options in terms of investing as there are now.
So Belinda, this is absolutely key. So there's 2 things. Well, there's a few things you cover there. Saving and investing, really important. Whoever is listening here, you need both. Now, one of the recipes we have in the Wealth Shop is what I call wealth pie, is about how do we allocate money to different things. So investing is the most important thing, and the first bill we should all be paying with every bit of money that comes into our life is to ourselves, is to our freedom, is to our liberation. And that is, I think, possibly the most important first step that is so many people resist because it feels either selfish or I don't have enough money. And we're taught this, look after everything else first and then myself. But it's such backwards thinking. I love the African bush and the wildlife, and I look, no lioness starves herself for her cubs because she knows she needs to hunt. And that's not how life is, right? So we have to feed first with our time, our money, and our energy. And so investing, and this is where we're going to come to the difference between investing and saving, is keeping some of that money for our future self. We then allow some of that money to stay in our life and work for us. And we'll come back to what to invest it in. So investing has to be the first amount. Hey, I'm paying my freedom. I'm paying myself that first tax. And it's such a liberating behavior, because wealth is first and foremost a behavior. Creating wealth is about how do we show up for ourselves? What are the behaviors we do consistently? The second then most important bill we pay is our intermediate self. So saving is when we keep some money in our life, but with the intention of spending it. So it's going to be for those school fees, for that bigger deposit on whatever, for that holiday. Whereas investing stays and gets converted into this asset that can work for us. So those are the first 2 actions. So we need both. So let's come back to investing in assets. So a lot of people don't understand an asset is just something, and a wealth generating asset, not the asset that the bank will tell you to put on your balance sheet to borrow money. Your home is not an asset because it's going to cost you money and it can't work for you. Your clothes, your car's not an asset. Your shoe collection's not an asset. Your kids are not assets. They're gigantic liabilities. But an asset is just simply something that can grow in value and or earn income for you, but it works for you. So when we start demystifying the jargon and just go, oh, what is something that I can either spend my energy to create or I can spend some money to buy that is going to grow in value, not depreciate, not shrink or just consume it. And so there's this capital value process, which is called the capital gain, or it can generate income. So of course, the classic investing, we think of it as real estate. You can buy an apartment, rent it out, it will grow in value, hopefully if we do our numbers properly, and we can rent it and generate income. A share in a company. So a lot of people, that kind of investing, go, oh, it's scary. It's the sexiest asset class. I love it. It's the easiest one to invest in. You can invest in like 100 Rand a month, the starting in. All it means is you get to own a company. You don't have to pitch up for a day's work. You don't have to manage any horrible staff or whatever. You don't have to do any work, and you benefit from the growth of that company and the income it generates, the profit called dividends. So when we can demystify and go, oh, investing, all it is taking some of our money or our energy, because we can also create assets, something that can grow in value, and now it works for me. And I love what you just shared there about solar panels. Now, through the internet, we have got unprecedented access to fractional investing, to fractional real estate, you can everything, as I say, from a solar panel, you can own cows that somebody else farms, commodities, crypto, but there are core assets that we need to just start creating that habit, the habit of saying, one, there is enough for me to keep a small amount of money in my life, because until we create that habit, nothing else, there will never be enough. And then going, oh, let me learn about what is a thing that can grow in value and earn for me. And then we can start creating them. As I say, the internet, just as you said, has also created unprecedented opportunities. We can create online businesses, we can have systems generating it, but yes, assets. But we've got to understand what the act of investing is, what an asset is, and that small amounts matter. Because I think the big barrier, I'm sure from your interview, was a lot of people might have said, well, I don't have enough money. There's no point. I'm waiting until I've got more money, then I'll spend. And that is, well, you're just always going to be waiting. Whereas if we start with small amounts, we learn with small amounts, and then we can expand it. But the compounding works. That small seed earns a bit, that money stays in, expands, and then now that snowflake becomes a snowball, becomes that avalanche, and that's how we create that wealth.
Awesome. And so tell me, when you decided to write the book, what made you, what inspired you, or what made you say, oh no, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to let people know what I learned?
So my own journey initially was just realizing that I was I was trying to do the right thing. My father, who you mentioned in the dedication, he died when I was relatively young, and I got to watch my mum, who had been the mother of 6 kids, looked after the saving and the short-term household money pattern. In fact, a very familiar pattern that we see in many households, the looking after the house budget, the saving, but actually really afraid when it came to the bigger financial well-being picture. And when my father died, there was a small amount of money, and he had no idea who to trust, who to turn to, except outsource it and hope somebody else, that financial advisor would look after her. The story of it's complicated, difficult. And Linda, was at that point, I vowed that I never wanted to be that vulnerable. And so that's when I studied civil engineering, not because I gave a damn, but it looked like that's what men did. I thought if I got that good job, then I'll be okay. They seem to have this part of life sussed. But, looking back now and what I know now, not at all. It was, again, just working how to earn money. So as, I share a bit of my story, and I've come in there from my own side was the first and foremost element. But I continued working in engineering. I had big teams. worked all over the world. And as I looked out more, as my own liberation around my money stuff came and my wealth was growing, and I realized, like, wow, I've actually given myself this amazing gift of getting out of my own way. You know, one of the biggest, I'm going to say, excuses people use for not getting on and living their life, this precious gift of this one incredible life we've got, is I don't have the time and I don't have the money. Oh yeah, but Anne, I would do that. I would write that book. I would go and contribute to that. I'd love to do X, Y. I don't have time and money. So time and money are these two critical resources, and it's so socially acceptable, especially for us women. There's almost a badge for self-betrayal. We get that, who can be the biggest self-betrayer? You know, I would get on and live my amazing one juicy life, but, you know, I don't have the time or the money. Yeah. And so I just want to put that out there, because we all have to challenge ourselves and going, where am I using this badge of self-betrayal, which is actually around fear of rejection. It's not ever about the time, about money and time. Because as I created my own financial freedom, I really did hit that edge of, okay, Anne, nice one. Now you've outed yourself. You can't use the excuse of no time or money, because if you don't have to work, well, you're choosing what to do with your time, and now you can have the time you want. And I'd love everybody to really sit and go, okay, so if I couldn't use that excuse, what would I really do? And I sat there and I looked around and I saw in workplace, I saw with my friends, I saw colleagues, how much confusion and stress and anxiety there was around money stuff. How much conversation there was around having it or not having it, all this limitation. And I just realized, one, the gift that I'd given myself, but also this strong feeling. I went, I want to help people on this side, because I also see in relationships, in the workplace, if we are coming into anything believing we have to, that there's no freedom and there's a choice, there's the worst part of us shows up, as opposed to, I get to do this, I choose this. There's a completely different side. And so it was at that point I said, okay, Anne, well, if you didn't use the time or money excuse, what would you do? And I went, well, I would help people around their money. I would help them learn how to manage it, how to invest it, how to get out of consumer debt, one of the most crippling and shaming things that is pervasive, like parasite in our society, how to understand what they need from insurances or not, how to just feel more confident about this and demystify. And then I went, oh shit, okay, this feels a bit scary. So I had to get out of my own, not good enough, who am I? And that's when I decided to leave my engineering career and create the Wealth Chef. And then this is what evolved. And I'm just so grateful I have, because I keep getting to explore more and more layers of our relationship with money and wealth and worthiness and what that means. And yeah, Belinda's just been such a joy.
Amazing. Sounds like an amazing journey, which I think is never going to end, I guess.
Because I think when we really slow down, we realize that money weaves through every aspect of our life. And when there's these surface, and this is what's so key, we need to learn the practical how-tos. Because I read a lot of books, and we can have a lot of stuff on, you know, the rah-rah, the self-worth, the believe in yourself shit. But it's also like, well, what do I do with my tax-free savings account? How do I read that fact sheet and know what to invest in? And there's, as you say, when you open your Easy Equities account and you just see all this jargon and bullshit, how do you not go, oh, fuck it, I'm going to get this wrong? And then there's this amazing element of going, what stories have I taken on? What beliefs have I taken on around my own worthiness, around what money means, what having money means, what not having money means? You know, we are so contorted, and then when we can just get perspective, and so it's an amazing lens of also just personal growth, exploration in both sides. And it's great to just see people suddenly going, shit, this is not so complicated. Oh my God, I can fire that financial advisor and get more money staying in my life if that is the case. I can, that liberation, that relief of, Because here's the thing, the freedom happens as soon as we realize we no longer have to be afraid. We understand how we're going to get to that point where we can stop working. We know that we're not going to end up on that park bench eating, the cat food. Because, this is a pervasive fear of like,
Yeah.
am I going to end up with not enough? But how do we do that? And so that's when the freedom comes. Like, oh, I can just relax a little bit, just have a little bit more peace of mind, which is so key.
Oh, that's so key. It's absolutely key. And tell me, Anne, what is the future of the Wealth Chef? What does it look like? What are you working on? What are you conjuring?
Yeah. So, I keep remembering the foundational, this entry level. How do we just be great with our money? These 5 core recipes of wealth. It's now been 14 years since I've been teaching them some wealth shift. There's been TV shows and books and all these different things. But I keep remembering this foundational aspect is so key. So we use the amazing internet and digital marketing. Like, how do we keep sharing that, getting that out? Then key, how to start investing, especially in equities, stock market, using, because it is the most powerful asset class to invest in with small amounts of money. It's the most powerful asset class just to automate, to make happen in, as I say, with small amounts of money, using tax efficient ways. Like what the tax deferred, the retirement annuities, the tax free savings account, to just demystify these and go, oh, well, that's how to do it. So this core base is just really key, and so it's also just how do we get through the noise out there? Because one of the things, as amazing as the internet is and AI, there's more and more scammers, bullshit artists, wannabes wanting to teach like the latest, do this get rich quick scheme thing, and there's more and more and more. So how to help people differentiate between what is the similar of the diet pill versus real solid money. So, because what breaks my heart, Belinda, and we get emails and messages and DMs every day, the number of scams that people fall for, whether it's not just on crypto but on debt. So this passion of just how to help people have discernment is just key. But what I've been loving exploring, and this has been, I guess, the last 5 years for me, is really the concept of what's enough, how much is enough, where we are enough. Because as I, achieve my own financial freedom and more people get into that element, one of the things that we can end up doing is there's never enough. There's always another level. And each of us, and understanding the psychological neuroscience of how do we, especially as women, enable ourselves to receive and go, you've done enough today. It's good enough. You can do that. As a parent, as a business owner, in employment, how do we stop endlessly chasing the more? Because the devastation that I truly think is one of the things is, I think a lot of people end up at the end of their life and they're still waiting to live. I'll just get this sorted. Next thing. Yes, I will do that project, that adventure, that relationship, that thing, that creative stuff. And so I've been exploring all the aspects of enough. So one is, how much is enough financially? What do we need? How much is enough time, energy? But also, to really, a key part of it is, how do we unattach our sense of worthiness and our own enoughness from our performance, from our success criteria, from the money we have, the job we do, the being the good girl, the good mother, the good wife, the good business partner, all of that external elements, and go, what if you were born enough? What if there is literally nothing you can do to be enough, to have enough? Oh, wow. Our money, our time, our energy are just resources that we get to create this extraordinary life. I think if we can just create that tiny gap, we are now able to manage our money more, manage our time. We just see, oh, they're just Play-Doh we get to use. They don't define me, they don't define you. And so when I think more of us can come to life with the wonder of being alive, and we get to do this thing rather than we have to, that suppression, I just think that is where we get to really bring life and joy in. And this is, I think, the gift that us women can bring to the world. But until we can separate out our identity and external validation of the size we are, the car we drive, what school our kids go to, are we doing the right thing here and there? We're just so fucking afraid of being deemed not good enough in some way. So I've run a pilot program. The book is going to be coming out in 2026. And so it's a quite a chunky and interesting one, but that is really the next step. But the thing is, we can only start contemplating some of these things when we have our base financial foundation in place, because this is all nice to think. But if you don't know how you're going to feed your kids, if you don't know how to keep a roof over your head and you're afraid, you can't even start contemplating. So my first key passion is helping people get freedom from that fear and anxiety. And then at that point go, well, what does this open up? What does this give me freedom to experience? And those are the two key components.
Amazing. And just from your book, what it gave me at the time was a lot of confidence, because I was able to test what you put into your book with real life practical doing what you said, being able to go and check the type of insurance that was applicable for my life. You can go and test it. And once you've tested that and you've put it into place, then it gives you that incredible confidence. And I think, Anne, you're definitely on something very powerful there, where, you know, it's got a lot to do with the identity. Or do you feel worthy and, you know, of money, etc. I must say, in my life, I think it resonates a lot with me. I think a lot of us, when we were young, you know, we had different belief systems where it was like rich people are evil and, you know, poor people are good. And, you know, often we have to, as we get older, unwind or, you know, remove or let go of a lot of belief systems that don't serve us anymore. So I'm definitely looking forward to your new program and your book in 2026. Please keep me abreast of when that releases. I'd love to let the community know. But in the meantime, I am wanting everyone on my community to go out, read your book, or get onto one of your programs, especially your Kickstarter program, which gives you the elements of how to start a life of wealth. I really believe that if I hadn't read your book, I've read quite a few other books, but I must say your book was the first book that actually made sense to me in its entirety, and that I could go back again and again and again when I forgot a specific thing, or when my specific insurance, you know, expired, and I wanted to just check that I had everything that you had told me I needed. And it's such a good reference book to be able to go back to and make sure at every stage of one's life that you've covered all the bases and all the basics are done. So I'm so grateful that you wrote that book, Anne, because you have really changed my life. 16 years ago, I found myself in a very, very difficult position. My husband and I got divorced. He had left for someone else. And there I was with a very small income, a little small salary, and I'd never really invested. And I had no idea where to start. So I tried different things. I messed up a lot. I made many, many mistakes. I'm very, very happy that I picked up your book one day at Exclusive Books, and I was like, what is this? Let me see what this says. I read the back of it. I was like, oh, this seems easy to read. Okay, let me grab this. And I never looked back. So when I decided to start a channel to, I don't know, help people who are like me, got divorced, didn't know what to do, not much financial knowledge, but just wanted to understand a few very basic elements of financial management and wealth, I thought straight away about your book and brought it out front and center so that everyone in my channel can know that this book was instrumental in putting me on the right path. I'd made a lot of mistakes before, but it was okay. Every time I went and got your book and put in those specific basics in place, they have put me in good stead. It gave me the confidence to go and try something else and something bigger and something bigger and bigger and bigger, and to have the discipline of saving money, but putting the money aside for me and my freedom. And it gave me, and honestly, Anne, it gave me altruistic goal, which was one day to be able to give back the pearls of wisdom that I had gained through this process. So thank you.